Thank God. Thank God we can actually have something to be happy about in Philadelphia sports over the past like few weeks and stuff like that. I would say the only thing you could really be happy about is that Joel Embiid is playing at an MVP level, and then I would say that's basically it. But thankfully, we have something that's really good for us right now. So it was literally just confirmed about like 10-15 minutes ago or so that the Philadelphia Phillies they re-signed JT Realmuto to a 5-year contract worth $115.5 million. And I think the annual value of that per year is like 23 point something, 23.1. I think around that range. So I love it. I absolutely love the deal. And originally the deal was like rumored to be around the 100 mil range, but then you got all the reports that the Braves were possibly interested in getting Realmuto on the team. So basically I took that entire situation as it's JT's agent trying to scare the Phillies into driving the price up, and that's exactly what happened. Not 100, not 5 years, 100 mil. It's gonna be 5 years, $115.5 million. So absolutely love the contract. I do. And honestly, you got to give a little bit of props to the Phillies because we all thought that going into the offseason, and honestly, even going into before last season started, even before everything with COVID, with the old shortened season and everything that happened, all the talks were the Phillies going to re sign JT Realmuto before the season started, even during spring training. And they were getting close, but then when everything with COVID happened, all the talks stalled. And then once you got ready for the start of the season, there really wasn't any connection there between the Phillies and JT Realmuto re-signing with them, and a lot of reports were stating that he was going to go test free agency. And that is eventually what happened. JT did have a great season for the Phillies. Sadly, overall, the Phillies didn't make the playoffs, which it was an annoying season regardless, but now go in the free agency. Everyone's expecting JT's going to get like somewhere way north of 100 mil per season. He's looking for that long-term type of contract just so he can go to his team, get the money that he wants, and just be there for the rest of his career. And now, when you're going into a shortened, when you're going into the one of the more odder off seasons that you are right now in Major League Baseball because of COVID, because a lot of people don't want to spend that much money just because how much money they lost during the season, even though that's not stopping teams like the Padres, the White Sox, and the Mets too. It's not stopping those types of teams from making their moves, but there's a lot of owners that really don't want to spend that money just because of how much you lost during the regular season. And the Phillies like going through all the offseason with all the embarrassment they've been talking about, saying they're going to lose like $2 billion or something like that. John Middleton being oof. And then you hire Dave Dombrowski, and then you think, okay, the Phillies they're maybe going in a better direction. There was a little bit of skepticism when you hired Dave Dombrowski because of how much turmoil he puts the teams in after his tenure with them, like the Boston Red Sox. But then you look at teams like the Detroit Tigers when he built that team from the ground up and they became a contender for so long, even though they didn't win the World Series. They were a contender for a long period of time, but then now they're in so much turmoil after he left. So, then you get the sense from Dave Dombrowski's press conference that the Phillies, they're not in a rebuild mode, they're in a retool mode, which I thought was maybe the best possible way for the Phillies to go at this point. So, I like this move right here. I like what Dave Dombrowski has done over the past few months because you got JT Realmuto locked up to a contract. He's going to be with you for 5 more years, and I love the contract. 115 mil. I did expect he was probably going to get more if you're looking at a regular type of offseason, not dealing with COVID. He probably would have got more in the open market, but I think with everything that's going on, a lot of the price dropped for JT, which allowed the Phillies to luck into signing him. And I do believe this is a luck situation. But then you also got to give credit for the Phillies letting JT test the market and getting that idea that maybe teams are not going to really giving the money that I want. So maybe I'll go back to Philadelphia to get something because they really do want me. So like the contract right there. And then other moves by Dave Dombrowski. He brought in Archie Bradley 1 year, $6 million. I like that move a lot. It's something to help out the bullpen because we all know the historically bad bullpen last year. So getting Archie Bradley is definitely a great help right there. If you look at the stats for Archie Bradley over the past 2 years, last season he split time with the Diamondbacks and the Cincinnati Reds, and in total through the season he played 16 games with a 2.95 ERA. Very solid stuff right there. He's just been a very solid pitcher over the past like 3 or 4 years. Last year with that 2.95, the year previously with a 3.52. then the year previous with a 3.64, and then that previous year in 2017 with a 1.73 ERA. So I'm not sure if this is closer type of material. It's definitely not a long reliever type of material. I would say he's more like that middle reliever, maybe a setup guy for a closer if the Phillies decide to go that route. Maybe they go get another arm for the bullpen. The Phillies have made some minor moves, getting some guys to minor league deals and signing some pitchers like that, but nothing really extreme. Like the only major things the Phillies have done this offseason is JT and Archie Bradley. So I like those two moves. I really like the JT situation, but right now there's still a lot of glaring issues with the Phillies lineup. There is, because who's going to be your everyday center fielder? Who's going to be your shortstop? Who's going to be your second baseman? And honestly, you can even say who's going to be your third base and first baseman, because there's a lot of holes right now. The only locks for the lineup you can really say for this team are Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto now that he's signed to the contract, Andrew McCutchen because he has 1 year left on his. I would assume Gene Segura. I would assume Alec Bohm is definitely a lock for the lineup. And Rhys Hoskins, who knows if Dave Dombrowski does something with Rhys Hoskins. Is he going to be healthy enough to start the season? Because he had that season-ending surgery. So there's a lot of issues. Like I said, are you going to do another situation with Adam Hazley in center field? Is Scott Kingery going to be your starting second baseman? Is Gene Segura going to be your starting shortstop? Is Alec Bohm, with his defensive struggles, going to be your starting third baseman? Or do the Phillies do something with Rhys Hoskins? Maybe they do move him for something, and then you put Alec Bohm at first base. But then also the other question comes in, who's going to be your starting third baseman at the same time? So there's a lot of gaping issues that the Phillies need to find a way to resolve, because there's a lot of things that they need to do. So even going to the shortstop position, there are a lot of rumors that the Phillies are looking after a guy. There's two guys that the Phillies are trying to go back and get. So one of them is ideally Didi Gregorius. He had a great season with the Phillies last year, and he's definitely looking for some different type of money, a longer type of contract in this offseason. But there have been links for the Phillies trying to re-sign him. Another name on the market that the Phillies might be trying to get, maybe for possibly a shorter-term type of deal, is a guy like an Angelton Simmons from the Los Angeles Angels. Free agent this offseason. Amazing fielder. I think he's won a platinum glove. He's incredible in the field. And honestly, his bat is nothing to joke about either. He's a very solid hitter. He's not really a guy that's going to be a threat from power. He's more of that just guy that's going to hit for average. He's a contact type of hitter. He'll get on base. He'll drive in runs. He's more of that type of hitter. But having him in the lineup and having him in the field, especially with the Phillies infield with the struggles on their defense, that'll definitely be a major help if Dave Dombrowski can go out and get a guy like Angelton Simmons. I know there's other teams that are linked with him as well. I think the Cincinnati Reds are one of the teams that are linked to him. So there's a lot of gaping question marks. There's a lot of things to do. And if you do go and re-sign a DD, or if you do go and sign an Angelton Simmons, does that mean Gene Segura moves to second base? And possibly do you try another experiment with Scott Kingery in center field? So there's a lot of things that the Phillies need to figure out as well. Because once again, the pitching staff. The pitching staff is going to be a major, major issue. Because the Phillies really didn't go out there and get a starting pitcher. Are we really just going to deal with the same situations again? Aaron Nola. Even though I like Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, they're a good 2-3, but a 1-2 at this point. I think the Phillies need something better right now. And then also with Zach Eflin, I did like the way he closed out last season, but is he really your ideal third starter? I see Zach Eflin as more of a fourth or fifth starter. And are we going to go with the entire Vince Velasquez situation again, the Vince Velasquez experiment? Is he going to be a starter for next year? Or is he going to be a guy that gets shoved into the bullpen? Who knows? Maybe does Dave Dombrowski trade him to try to get another piece for the starting rotation? There's a lot of questions. And also Spencer Howard. I know the Phillies have high hopes for Spencer Howard. Really didn't do anything to impress last year. He got injured at the end of the season. And maybe this is another chance for him to prove himself. Do the Phillies use him as a fourth or a fifth type of starter? So yeah, the starting rotation is still a major question mark. Same thing with the bullpen. You got Archie Bradley, but there's still a lot of holes in that bullpen. Even though you got JoJo Romero and Connor Brogdon, those guys, like I said, they are very interesting pieces. JoJo had a really impressive start when he was called up to the Phillies, and then he started to falter a little bit because teams got a little bit used to him, so that's something for him to adjust. Connor Brogdon in his first call-up wasn't really that good, but in his second stint, he was starting to get adjusted and he started to look really good. So 2 interesting key pieces right there, and you also add Archie Bradley to the mix. But there's still the entire bullpen situation is still very questionable at this point. So it's not like the Phillies' work is done. They still have a lot more work to do because one, you got to figure out the infield positions. You got to figure out some other situations with the bullpen. You got to figure out your starting rotation situation. So it's not like signing JT Realmuto. Yes, it does make the Phillies a lot better, but there's still a lot of gaping issues. Because right now, you really see the Phillies in the NL East because a lot of other teams are making their moves in this division. The Mets made a ton of moves getting Lindor and Carrasco, and the Mets still look like they're not even done yet. And the Nationals, they're making some moves as well. The Braves, they're still gonna be the Braves. They're still gonna be one of the favorites to win the NL East. And the Marlins, they're a young and up and coming team. So this division, honestly, is gonna be a really tough division for the Phillies. And there's still very skeptical of this team. I could still see them as a 4th place, 5th place team, just because right now there's still a lot of glaring issues. There is. But I guess the one thing that you could say is a positive right now is you got JT locked up. And Dave Dombrowski is looking at other things to fix the bullpen. The starting rotation, it's still a glaring issue. They still, I would say, need at least they still need another top starter. They definitely do need that. So there's still a lot of problems. There is. And I also saw some reports that maybe, like, when you're going into this season for the Phillies, I know next year's free agent class is going to be extremely huge. And a lot of people are saying that the Phillies could tap into that market, i.e., when you're looking at maybe signing a shortstop this year for maybe just like a short-term deal, a 1 or a 2-year deal, because next year's free agent market is going to be big in terms of shortstops. Because you got guys like Javier Baez, you got Trevor Story, Corey Seager, guys that are going onto the market. So maybe the Phillies, they go after a guy short-term at shortstop, and then you go after one of those bigger names in next year's free agency. But that's still looking way too deep into the future right now. You still got an entire 2021 season to play, and you got to see what the Phillies do going into spring training, because we are really close to spring training starting, actually. I think in a few weeks, pitchers and catchers report. So it's just, man, time is going by way too quickly when you know that pitchers and catchers are going to be reporting soon to spring training. And going into Philly season, it's always going to be exciting. You get to see spring training, them playing down in Clearwater. But there are also reports saying that the Cactus League in Arizona, they want the MLB to start later just because of all the situations going down there with COVID. But MLB has told the players to be prepared for an on-time spring training, so I wonder how that situation is going to be even starting there. So it's going to be interesting, definitely, without a doubt. But still, when you get closer and closer to Phillies baseball, it's always exciting, even though the team is a major letdown. But still, it's getting JT back. It's good. It's something to be at least positive about with the team for once, because, like I said, Philadelphia sports, you have not been able to be positive for like the past few weeks. Eagles, they're an entire mess right now. They hired their head coach, but they're still a mess. The Sixers, they're off and on. They're still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, but they're off and on. But then Joel Embiid is also playing at MVP level, so that's nice. The Flyers, they're really incredibly frustrating right now. And after I say I'm happy about the JT Realmuto signing right now, the Flyers are most likely going to piss me off later. Well, I think that's going to do it for this video right here. So I want to hear your thoughts and comments right now on the JT Realmuto signing. Do you think it's great for the Phillies? Are you excited about it? Are you happy? And just like your thoughts on the other glaring issues with this team, because there are definitely a lot of glaring issues. And I want to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think this team needs to do more in the offseason to try to be more competitive? Or do you still think this is more of a above average year for the Phillies and they're focusing on the future free agent markets? So I want to hear your thoughts about that. So don't forget to leave your comments down in the comment section. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to check out the Painted Lines, which I am a part of. Their links will be in the description below. Don't forget to check out the Florida Podcast merchandise website. That link will also be in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.